Hello everyone, welcome back to a Thanksgiving episode of Bear Economics. Every Thanksgiving we sit down to a giant feast, but few people realize that the first Thanksgiving was only possible because of some of the most important Austrian principles: scarcity, voluntary exchange, private property, incentives, and spontaneous order. Today I'll be breaking down the economics of the first Thanksgiving and how these principles literally saved the Pilgrims from starving. Well, most of them. The Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth in 1620 with noble intentions, but terrible economics. They believed resources were abundant, that communal labor would be efficient, and that everyone naturally worked for the common good. Reality hit fast. Half the colony died the first winter, food was scarce, labor was poorly allocated, and productivity collapsed. A perfect example of Austrian principle number one: scarcity is real, and ignoring it has consequences. The Pilgrims' first economic system was textbook socialism. No private plots, no private ownership, everyone farms collectively, everyone gets the same ration regardless of effort, and just like Mises explained centuries later, when ownership is communal and incentives are removed, productivity collapses. Governor Bradford wrote that under this system, young men were unwilling to work without compensation, women viewed communal labor as slavery, and the most industrious had no incentive to work harder. Austrians call this the calculation problem and the incentive problem. Without price signals, without property rights, and without individual reward, society drifts towards poverty. And unfortunately, the Pilgrims learned this the hard way. So in 1623, the Pilgrims made a radical shift. They abolished communal farming and assigned private plots to each family. This single policy change unleashed Austrian principle number two: private property creates incentives that increase productivity. Suddenly, people worked harder. Food production soared, surplus appeared, and specialization emerged. Surprise, surprise. So Bradford wrote, "This had very good success. Much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been." Austrians would say, property rights align effort with reward, and aligned incentives create prosperity. Who would have known? The first Thanksgiving was not a political treaty. It wasn't foreign aid. It wasn't forced redistribution. It was voluntary exchange. And this would lead us to Austrian principle number three. The Wampanoag traded knowledge for goods. They taught the Pilgrims how to grow corn, to fertilize the soil, and to use local crops efficiently. The Pilgrims traded tools, metal goods, and alliances. This wasn't charity. This was mutually beneficial trade, where both sides gained value. Austrians call this the double coincidence of wants, where free individuals exchange goods because it improves both of their lives. Nobody planned the first Thanksgiving dinner. There was no central authority coordinating outputs, no bureaucratic rationing. It emerged spontaneously. Austrian principle number four: order arises naturally when individuals pursue their own interests under good institutions. Private farming led to a surplus. Surplus led to trade. Trade leads to cooperation, and cooperation leads to celebration. This is exactly what Hayek called the extended order: society flourishing without central planning. The true miracle of the first Thanksgiving wasn't the feast. It was the economics behind it. Austrians would summarize it like this: scarcity forced real-world decisions, communal property failed, private property unleashed productivity, voluntary exchange created prosperity, and spontaneous order made peace possible. Thanksgiving happened because the Pilgrims embraced Austrian economics, long before Austrian economics had a name. So as we all sit down for our Thanksgiving meal this year, remember this: the abundance on your table isn't an accident. Prosperity comes from freedom, incentives, property rights, and voluntary cooperation. The same principles that saved the Pilgrims are the same principles that build prosperous societies today. Thank you for watching. Please like and share and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next episode.